Putin is continuing to advance into Korea.
When did we beat Japan at anything?
To disperse with 30 bullets within half a second. 30 magazine clip in half a second.
Right now, if you Google the word idiot, a picture of Donald Trump comes up. I just did that.
We'll do it live. Fuck it.
Presently, the police do have one suspect in custody. However, there could be others involved. Also, there are multiple scenes involved in this incident as well, and police will be giving more details as they can as the situation unfolds. Whilst I cannot give any confirmation at this stage around fatalities and casualties, what I can say is that it is clear that this is one of New Zealand's darkest days. Clearly, what has happened here is an extraordinary and unprecedented act of violence.
Hello and welcome to the Political Circus Weekly podcast. And what you were just listening to is comments from New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, who delivered those comments in the aftermath of a tragic and horrific shooting that took place in New Zealand on March 15th. A man opened fire on two places of worship in Christchurch, New Zealand, leaving 48 dead and 49 wounded. That was the latest news update. The shooter, along with three others, were taken into custody after the shooting took place. It was a horrible act of hate that should be condemned by everyone. Due to one person's actions, families are forever destroyed, and a community is left picking up the pieces. I am Mike Ursery, the host of the Political Circus Weekly podcast, and you are listening to episode number 20. Now, before Friday, as I was going through the planning phase of this week's episode and looking for topics to talk about this week, up until Friday, this week was really a slow news week. And I was thinking to myself that the main topic for this episode was going to be the college admissions scandal that involved a couple of Hollywood celebrities and along with several other people. And then this idiot in New Zealand did what he did. It began, I think it was around 1:41 p.m. New Zealand time. I'm not sure what time that is in the United States. What I do know is that I was asleep while it was taking place. And when I woke up Friday morning, the first thing I saw was the news about what was taking place in New Zealand. This is an attack that was premeditated. I'll get into the details about who this person is and why he did what he did here in a little bit. But first, let me say that starting your day off by seeing a video of someone walking through a mosque and firing a weapon at people, that is not how I want to start my day, but that is how I started my day on March 15th. I was getting ready to leave to go to the gym to do my morning workout that morning, and I'm going through news, and this is right after waking up, and that's when I started to see this. That video has since been taken down from the internet, thankfully. That video was, apparently, I saw somewhere that it was, like, altogether, I think it was like 17 minutes is what I saw. I saw a video that was maybe like 3 minutes, but that was more than what I wanted to see. And this is another event in the world that just leaves everyone asking, why? Why? Why did this person do what he did? Why did he walk into two different mosques as people were gathered for prayer, minding their own business, worshiping the way that they choose to worship? And he walks in and opens fire and kills 48 people. And another 49 people are left wounded. Why? Why did he do that? Well, this person was later taken into custody, and as more information began to come out, that's when we start to learn about why he did what he did. So here's what we know so far. The shooter's name is Brenton Tarrant. He is a 28-year-old white male from Australia, and he is a white supremacist. Yes, this was an attack conducted by a white supremacist on 2 Islamic places of worship. This was a terrorist attack, and it was an attack that was intended to have not just an impact on the people who were the victims of this. No, this was meant to reach well beyond that, because he live streamed the whole thing, and he also produced a manifesto that was packed full of internet memes. More on that later. So this thing started with him posting to an 8chan message board. You know, before Friday, I had never heard of 8chan. I've heard of 4chan. I have never heard of 8chan. And later that day, my curiosity led me to go check out 8chan just to see what it was. And I'll just say that 8chan is not for the faint of heart. That place is, the simplest way I can put it is, that place is awful. But he goes to that 8chan message board. He posted a link to his manifesto, which is now gone. And he also posted a link to his live stream so that other people there could watch while he was doing it. And the live stream starts with him driving in his car to the Al Noor Mosque in Christchurch. And he's listening to this song that's dedicated to a Serbian nationalist named Radovan Karadzic. So for those who watched the live stream, this is what you would have heard while he was driving in his car. Now, I really don't know what the significance is behind that song. Maybe someone does and they can tell me. But this man was listening to polka on his way to a mosque to go murder people. I do know that Zarajic was imprisoned for genocide because he had committed war crimes against Muslims. And I don't know if that was the meaning or if there's something else there. I haven't really seen anything that confirms that. And he enters the mosque with two rifles that had words written all over them. On one rifle, he had written 14 words, which that pertains to 14 words from Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf. The 14 words read as, "We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children." He had also written the name Ebba Åkerlund, who was an 11-year-old girl who was killed in the attack in Stockholm, Sweden in 2017 when a man drove a truck into a crowd of people at a shopping center. So he arrives at the first mosque and he opens fire and begins shooting people. And this lasted for about 17 minutes. I could not imagine being in that situation for so much as 1 minute, but for 17, my gosh, I could not. No, I just can't. He then goes to a second mosque and began shooting there. But then he was stopped. Someone at the mosque was armed with what New Zealand media reported was either a rifle or a shotgun. So there was a good guy with a gun at the second mosque, and this person fled. Isn't that amazing? Like, all these unarmed people in this mosque, and he fires at them and just persists and stays there for as long as he stayed before going to the second one. And then he goes to the second mosque and someone there is armed and he runs away. What a coward. And sometime later, he, along with 3 other people, were taken into custody. So now I'll get to this manifesto. And it was a 74-page document. I think 74. I didn't get a chance to read it because it was taken down before I could. I've only read news articles that describe things that are in this manifesto. 74-page document that was titled The Great Replacement. And in this manifesto, he describes himself as a regular white man that comes from a regular family. He says that he comes from a low-income family, and his family is of Irish, Scottish, and English stock. And he also says that he is European, and he has European blood. He's from Australia. He also said in this document that he decided to take a stand to ensure a future for my people. and he explained why he chose these 2 mosques in New Zealand. Apparently, he had been planning this thing for well over a year, but it wasn't until about 3 months ago that he decided on New Zealand. And the reason why is because he wanted to send a message that nowhere in the world was safe. Now, the thing about New Zealand is that you never hear about it. You never hear about anything ever happening in New Zealand until now. And that was one message that he wanted to broadcast to the rest of the world. In another part of the manifesto, he described how his worldview had changed many times. He described himself as one time a communist, and then later he became an anarchist, and then a libertarian, and then an eco-fascist. If you've never heard of eco-fascism, basically it's white supremacy combined with environmentalism. I'm not going to really get into details about eco-fascism, but I did want to tell all of you at least that's what eco-fascism is if you've never heard of it. And then there's one section of his manifesto where he explains why he chose to conduct this attack with rifles. And he says, I chose firearms for the effect it would have on social discourse, the extra media coverage they would provide, and the effect it could have on the politics of the United States and thereby the political situation of the world. You know, every time a mass shooting takes place here in America, the debate over whether or not we should enact gun control is revived. Every single mass shooting. The Orlando nightclub shooting, the Parkland, Florida shooting, every single one. We have people crying for gun control. We have people who oppose gun control. And it dies down. The next mass shooting happens. And it starts right back up again. And also packed inside this manifesto was a lot of internet memes. A ton. I saw one description of this that said, imagine if this was Pepe the Frog with a gun. This is a guy that hung out on 8chan message boards. 8chan, if it's anything like 4chan, it's a lot of memes and everything else that they do at those places. And one thing that he set out to do with this manifesto was he was out to troll people. Yes, he was on a mission. He did do what he did for a purpose, but at the same time, you know, if you've ever looked at 4chan, you know that a lot of trolling takes place there. And that's what he was doing with this manifesto, doing lots of trolling. For example, in one part of the manifesto, he cites Candace Owens, the black conservative lady. He said that Candace Owens had influenced him above all. So you're a white supremacist and you're influenced above all by a black woman? No, you're not. You're just trolling people. He also says in that same part that he had to disavow some of her beliefs since the extreme actions she calls for are too much, even for my taste. And that's a troll. I don't think this guy really is a follower of Candace Owens. He's just messing with people here. There's another part of his manifesto randomly inserted is what's known as the Navy SEAL copy pasta. It's also the guerrilla warfare copy pasta. It's called the Marine copy pasta. It's something that first showed up around 2012. Basically, it's a copy and paste. I don't know who made this originally, but then people started copying it and pasting it at places around the internet. And it goes something like, I'll have you know I graduated top of my class in the Navy SEALs, and I've been involved in numerous secret raids on Al-Qaeda, and I have over 300 confirmed kills. I am trained in guerrilla warfare, and I am the top sniper in the entire U.S. Armed Forces. You are nothing to me but just another target. I will wipe you out with precision the likes of which has never been seen before on this earth. Mark my words. You think you can get away with saying that to me over the internet? Think again. As we speak, I am contacting my secret network of spies across the USA, and your IP is being traced right now, so you better prepare for the storm. The storm that wipes out the pathetic little thing you call your life. You're dead, kid. I can be anywhere, anytime, and I can kill you in over 700 ways, and that's just with my bare hands. Not only am I extensively trained in unarmed combat, but I have access to the entire arsenal of the United States Marine Corps, and I will use it to its full extent to wipe you to wipe you off the face of the continent. If only you could have known with unholy retribution your little clever comment was about to bring down upon you. Maybe you would have held out your tongue. Or maybe you would have held your tongue. But you couldn't. You didn't, and now you're paying the price. And it's just a rant that was written into response to somebody. I don't know if this was a joke or what. I don't really know the origin behind this. But now it's known as Navy SEAL copy pasta. It's something that shows up on the internet randomly. There was even a meme that could be heard in his live stream. During his live stream, he shouted out, "Subscribe to PewDiePie." PewDiePie is a YouTuber, and there's a meme going around the internet that's called "Subscribe to PewDiePie." So he was doing this to troll people, but more importantly, he was doing this to troll the media. He wanted to confuse the media, and he wanted to have them chasing after things that are not true. Yes, his manifesto was packed with things that he actually believed, but he used all these memes to try to disguise all that because he wanted to throw everyone off. For example, he said that he was radicalized by a video game called Spyro Year of the Dragon. He also said that the video game Fortnite had taught him to floss on the corpses. I've never played Fortnite. I've done a little bit of reading, and apparently floss on the corpses is a dance move from the video game. Has nothing to do with actual corpses, I don't think. But one thing that he wanted journalists going on air and in print, repeating all these different things just to make themselves look ridiculous. He was trolling people. So it was about late morning before people here in America really started to weigh in on this whole thing. Look, last week I dedicated an entire episode to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and at the end of that episode I said that hopefully I wouldn't be talking about her the following week, that being this week. But here we are, and she had one of the worst takes Friday morning. By the way, this is added to the list. And the next nominee for worst take of 2019 is from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This is her first take to be nominated. I can almost guarantee this will not be the last. Now, one thing that people do after tragedy is they send thoughts and prayers to those affected. You hear it from politicians. You see it a lot on social media. Sending our thoughts and prayers to all of those affected by, name the event. In this case, the shooting in New Zealand. Well, Miss Cortez had this tweet Friday morning. She tweeted out, "At first I thought of saying, imagine being told your house of faith isn't safe anymore. But I couldn't say imagine because of Charleston, Pittsburgh, Sutherland Springs. What good are your thoughts and prayers when they don't even keep the pews safe?" I don't even know what to say to that. Of course, she tried to say later that that was in response to the NRA, because the NRA is an organization that announces sending thoughts and prayers. She tweeted out, "Thoughts and prayers is reference to the NRA's phrase used to deflect conversation away from policy change during tragedies, not directed to Prime Minister Ardern, who I greatly admire." No, she was doing that because she wanted to take a shot at the NRA, which had absolutely nothing to do with what happened Friday in New Zealand. First of all, that is extremely insensitive, and doing it for political purposes is a lot worse. That makes it so much worse. Second of all, these are people who were attacked during prayer. These are spiritual people. Of course, spiritual people find comfort knowing that others are offering up prayer for them. Prayer is something that brings comfort. Prayer is something that offers hope. Prayer is something that helps with relief. If you are a spiritual person. Personally, I have felt the positive effects from prayer. I know of others who have personally experienced the same thing. That was extremely insensitive, and that was incredibly uncalled for. Not only that, but you're mocking the phrase thoughts and prayers after an attack that happened at a house of prayer. That is a very bad look. That is an awful look. Right now, this is the front runner for worst take of 2019. And not only that, but come on, this thing had just happened and we're already talking about policy changes. Well, first of all, it happened in New Zealand and we're talking about policy changes here in America. And yes, I know this happens in America too, but this thing just happened. Can we not get political right off the bat? Please, can we not? But now, if you want to get into policy change, let's first point out that while this attack was not prevented, it was stopped. And the reason it was stopped is because someone there was armed. The good guy with the gun was there, and he was armed. And he stopped this thing, stopped it in its tracks because the guy cowardly ran away when he saw that someone else there was armed. Didn't prevent it, but it did stop it. You have to take that in consideration because one thing that we talk about when it comes to guns is we always talk about the good guy with the gun. And you know something? Maybe places of worship should adopt their own policy without government acting. Places of worship adopt their own policy and have their own security. And of course, I know there are people who are going to say, well, a place of worship shouldn't have to be guarded by security because it's a place of worship. Okay, yeah, you're right. You have a point. While you're worshiping, you shouldn't have to worry about that. But you know what? I shouldn't have to lock my car at night. I shouldn't have to lock my doors and my windows before I go to bed at night. I shouldn't have to, but I do it. And you know why? To prevent something from happening. To prevent someone from stealing my car. To prevent someone from breaking into my home and taking my stuff. Is that going to happen? Probably not. Can it happen? Absolutely it can. That's why I take preventive measures to make sure it doesn't happen. Look, if you haven't figured it out by now, the world sucks, okay? The world sucks. The world is a bad place. Bad things happen here. That's why you take preventive measures to prevent those bad things from happening to you. Look, my father is a retired police officer, and he's also retired from the United States Navy. And he is a concealed carry permit holder. He is trained to use a weapon. My parents used to attend this church, and my father, along with other people who were concealed carry permit carriers, posted security outside the church while people were inside worshiping. And the reason why they did that is so that the people who were inside didn't have to worry about anything. Nothing ever happened, thankfully, but if something ever did happen, there were people there trained to use weapons who would know what to do in the event that something was going to happen to the people inside. Preventive measures, they work. You could probably do the same thing for schools. Have some type of armed security there, however they choose to do it. I personally don't agree with the idea of arming teachers, but I mean, if a school wants to hire security to post on school grounds to prevent a school shooting from happening, that's certainly an option. Because right now, all schools are gun-free zones, and good guy with a gun is also good guy who follows the law and does not bring a weapon into a gun-free zone because that would be breaking the law, something good guy with a gun does not do. But no, instead, we'll just go on and on about policy changes that would actually put people at greater risk instead of helping them. And not only that, but with people arguing about gun control after this event, that man who did that, he got exactly what he wanted. He wanted to kill Muslims, he wanted to sow discourse, and he wanted to create even more division. That person succeeded on all three counts. My heart goes out to all of those affected, all of those who lost loved ones on March 15th. I send my thoughts and prayers. And I hope that the families who are now grieving can find peace. I hope this community can recover. And I hope that the people responsible for this get exactly what they deserve. The world is an ugly place. The world sucks. The best that we can do is show love and friendship to our neighbors. Treat people the way that you want to be treated. The best way to combat hate is with love and friendship. Thank you so much for listening to episode number 20 of the Political Circus Weekly podcast. I am your host, Mike Ursery. I will be back with another episode next week. Thank you for listening.
Thing sucks.